Hello, my name is Kevin Smith, and today I'm here to teach you how to change the oil in your 1979 CJ7. Now this CJ7 that's behind me here, it has a 304 5.0 liter V8 and it requires 5 quarts of oil. Now, when I went to Advanced today, I asked them what was the best oil to put in such an old vehicle. And they recommended the Valvoline synthetic 10W30 weight oil. And they also said that I needed to have a high performance oil filter, and they sold me this K&N oil filter. Now it's a very easy process, and the only tools you really need are a 3/4 inch socket on a ratchet. Very simple. Very simple. And the recommendation would be to get some doctor gloves, because you will be getting dirty, as you can already tell what's on my ear. One last thing I forgot to say that you will probably need is a handy flashlight, because it gets dark under the Jeep or any vehicle that you're changing the oil on. So I definitely recommend that. The first thing you're going to have to do is locate your drain plug. So we're getting under the Jeep right now, and thanks to my flashlight, we are going to be able to see under here. Now, hopefully you can see this, but there is a bolt right there on the bottom side of the engine. That's called your oil pan. You're going to have to loosen that and drain all the oil. And then you can continue on to change your oil after that. So what I'm going to do is just grab this oil drain container right here, and we're going to slide it under the Jeep and loosen that nut and watch some oil pour out. So now we are ready to get under the Jeep and loosen this bolt right here. This is your drain plug, and all I'm going to do is take my socket and wrench here and just loosen it up. Now it's going to look like I did it very easily because I've already pre-loosened it, but it's just as easy as this right here. And make sure you have your drain pan under it where it catches all the oil and you don't make a big mess. It's still a little too tight for my hand. Just keep loosening it. Hopefully it won't fall into the oil pan or the drain pan, because then that just gets very messy. And I dropped it, of course, but as you can see, the oil is coming out. That's exactly what you want to see. It's very black, so I know for a fact that it's time to change the oil. Now, while you're waiting on this, you're going to have to, or I would recommend you locating your oil filter. That way you can go ahead and start working on taking it off. The one on the Jeep is just on the other side of this and to the right. I'll show you that in just 1 second. Alright, so here is our oil filter. It's that white thing right there, and it's really hard to get to, but we're going to have to be able to get to it, loosen it, and catch the oil that's going to be dripping out of it because it's full of oil. So let's get right to it. So now I'm currently back on top of the Jeep, and if you can see here, that is our oil filter. I've already loosened it up. All I'm going to do right now is take it out. Nice and simple. And I kind of dropped it, but that's okay. We don't need that one anyway. What we do need is this brand new K&N oil filter, and we are going to open this thing up and I'll show you how to put it in. So for the next step, we are going to have to take this brand new oil filter, dip our finger in the oil, and run our finger around that rubber seal right here. The reason why you do that is that way you know you get a good seating when you tighten down this oil filter. And it is always a good idea, if you can, fill up the oil filter with some oil before you put it back in your vehicle. I'll be doing that off camera, and I'll get back to y'all really shortly. So now I'm back over here at the Jeep. I've got my oil filter all fixed up and ready to go, and I'm going to put it back in there where it needs to be. Now, as you can see, I've gotten the new K&N oil filter in place, tightened down, and the only thing we have to do now is put the drain plug back in it, tighten it down, and fill it up with new oil. One thing you make sure you never forget to do is to put this drain plug back in there. I've already done that and I did not record it, so I am very sorry. But after you get the drain plug back into the oil pan, you're going to get back on top of the Jeep and add new oil. So now I'm currently back on top of the Jeep. I have to take off this cap right here. This is where you add new oil in. So I'm just going to pop this off real quick. I'm going to throw a funnel in there. And then I'm going to reach over here, grab my Valvoline 10W30 motor oil, and start pouring some new oil in there. Now that we're done putting all 5 quarts of oil in the Jeep, we're going to take this funnel out. We're going to put the cap back on here, and we're going to have to take this dipstick out and check the oil and see to make sure the level of the oil is at the proper place. First thing you always do when you're checking oil is to wipe the dipstick, and we're going to put it back in its spot. If I can find that. Push it all the way down and pull it back out. As you can tell, it's a little bit above full, which is okay, because when we crank the Jeep up and let it warm up for a few minutes, it will let the oil circulate through the oil filter and it'll be just the right amount that we need. Now that we've checked to make sure we had the right amount of oil in this engine, we are going to put our cap back on here, and we're going to walk around and get into the Jeep and crank it up and let it circulate some oil to make sure that we had the proper amount in there. So now I've let the engine warm up and circulate some oil. We have to check the level of the oil one last time to make sure that it has the proper amount of oil in the engine for it to operate. I just wiped my dipstick like you're always supposed to do before you check the oil. I'm going to slide it back in there and pull it back out. And as you can see, it is at the full mark, right where it needs to be. So this has been a successful oil change. Now that we're finally done changing the oil in the Jeep, I would like to recap on the steps that we took to change the oil in the Jeep. First off, we went to our parts house, got the oil and the oil filter that we needed. We came back home and let the Jeep cool so we would not get burned while changing the oil in the Jeep. The next thing we done was we got on the creeper, got under the Jeep, and located the drain plug on the bottom side of the oil pan. We took the drain plug out of the Jeep and let it drain, the oil drain into a container that we had under the Jeep so we wouldn't make a big mess. While we was letting the oil drain, we located our oil filter. We took it out. We prepped the new oil filter, put it on, and then we got back under the Jeep and put the drain plug back into the oil pan so that way we can add new oil. Then we got on top of the Jeep, added the new oil, checked the dipstick to make sure it was just the right amount. We got into the vehicle, cranked it up, and let it circulate the oil through the oil filter and the rest of the engine. Then we cut the Jeep off and we checked the dipstick one last time on our oil level to make sure that it was just right. I'm sorry for the long video, but there's a lot of tedious steps that you cannot forget while changing the oil in your car so you wouldn't blow the engine. This has been Kevin Smith, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found it very useful.